got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry, especially for your daughter. I have 4 kids losing the school.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be. Of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
to
everything
fill the hydrants. I would fill them up personally. You know that.
I literally have.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see the. Do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to make the call to address everything I can right now, including making sure people are safe.
I'd like to make sure you do. Can I have an opportunity to at least tell people you're doing what you're saying you're doing? Could somebody have a contact? Can I have your contact information?
Right there.
Not every day you see a governor trying to run away from a distraught parent that trusted you to prevent the fires, which you promise year and year over and over, and you fail and fail.
Take a couple of questions. I do have to jump on a call here in a few minutes.
With that, with what you just mentioned and kicked off here, is now the right time to have a special legislative session on allocating money to fight Trump in a way that you could already do without a special legislative session?
So I'm here to address these wildfires. This is a historic wildfire. This is a historic event. These wildfires, as I mentioned, are going to be quite possibly some of the worst wildfires and disasters in state and national history.
While this wildfire is happening, and while people are trying to understand what's going on and are worried about disaster relief, worried about the ability to get homeowners insurance, your chamber gabbled into a special legislative session to prepare for Donald Trump in a way that you are already able to do without a special legislative session. So again, is now the right time for that?
So certainly our focus right now is Speaker Ashley. At this moment, my colleagues and I, we are acting with great urgency to ensure that we're providing much needed relief to Angelenos, to ensure that we understand what it's going to take for this region to recover, and to support those that have been most impacted by this disaster.
I don't even understand how you can focus on Trump right now when you're supposed to focus on the people.
So the Biden administration just announced the relief they're going to give to the victims of the LA wildfires. And that relief is going to be 100% of the recovery cost for the next 180 days. So for the next 6 months, the United States federal government is going to be on the hook for 100% of every single recovery cost. They have decided that the American taxpayer is paying for everything. Meanwhile, the victims in East Palestine got a $750 loan. The victims of the Maui wildfire, $750 loan. The victims of the hurricanes all throughout the Southeast, $750 loan. And not only did we have to fight to get that money, but we also had to have FEMA representatives come out and show actual damage so we could see if we even qualified to get a $750 loan that we have to pay back. But the victims of the LA wildfires, the wildfires that were 100% preventable by the state of California, they are getting 100% of their recovery costs paid for the next half a year. Are you fucking kidding me?
Many times they wanted to put like fiber optic, they wanted to put internet, we need extra money to install infrastructure, electric spots to be able to charge your car, billions here, billions there, and guess what? Many times the money disappears, or they just build a few, because there's so many regulation, and now you want people to trust you with a huge amount of money to build all those $1 million celebrity houses as if you're not going to waste that money. Venga, dilo. Remember to subscribe.
¿Por qué?
As I was getting my whole family out, all you have in your mind is just you're in survival mode at that point. I saw men coming into our neighborhoods. Police confirmed it. She had this to say. Take a listen.
It was wild. We just started seeing all these cars pull up, doors open, and groups of men running up our street, going up to the doors of these houses. And we weren't sure what was going on. I'm thinking, are these people here to help my neighbors? I hope so.
Why is she sounding so excited?
And I left, and then my husband talked to the police and said, what are those guys doing? These guys don't live here. Get them out. My next door neighbor said, his quote, there were like 100 people that came up on scooters and were trying to get into any and all houses on the street.
And did you physically see police officers stopping them?
I didn't, but it's not to say that they weren't. It was so incredibly chaotic, and I was so worried about my big family and getting them out of our old tinderbox of a house that I was just focused on them first.
Who the heck comes in hundreds of scooters to a bunch of red neighborhoods? And you're like, they're going to help us like a golden eye ninja, different. No! It doesn't surprise me that Gavin Newsom can take advantage of you.
3 days ago, I had to evacuate my home in California due to the fires. Now, fortunately, I have friends who I was able to stay with. But many people don't have that good fortune, and now many people are homeless, and some have died. This disaster was caused by multiple variables, and people have different opinions on which one should be weighted the most. Some have identified arson, some have pointed to climate change. But regardless of the cause, hopefully we can all agree that we have a great degree of control over the response. And the response has been well below what we actually deserve. And part of the reason why is because we have inverted our priorities and are focusing on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion instead of efficacy. And as a result of focusing on DEI, people have died. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. Last year, the LA Fire Department had its budget slashed by $17.6 million. In response to that, on December 4th, the head of the LA Fire Department, Kristen Crowley, sent a letter to Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, saying that they are not prepared for a variety of different disasters, including wildfires. Now, $17.6 million constitutes about 2% of LAFD's budget. But it's not about just the budget cuts. It's also about how they're spending their existing budget, because a significant amount, at least 1 to 2 million, was spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion policy.
And it's not only me that is calling it out. It's actually also people on your side.
All right, like everyone, I'm trying to figure out how this happened in California so that I don't say something that's inaccurate. I came across a video of the fire chief, a lesbian. Love it, great. Fan of lesbians, try to be one, didn't take. I don't think I'm a lesbian, I live in Los Angeles, and the men are so effeminate that honestly at this point dating a woman is like the straightest thing you can do. So anyway, talking about recruiting more lesbians into the LAFD to be firefighters. I think lesbians can be firefighters. Dope, fine. I'm not thinking about your genitals or your preferences when I need a hero, right? But is that not like, why is it okay? That'd be like a gay man being like, we need more gay men in here. That'd be like me going, we need more hot guys in here to be firefighters. That would be like a dude being like, we just need more hot blondes. That's what we need. And I will not stop until there are more people that I'm attracted to or that are in my dating pool. Like, isn't that essentially just recruiting people in your dating pool to work at your office? Wait, all the people in charge of LA's fire response are lesbians named Kristen? I do not recall voting on a prop that said we could recruit our fire team off Grindr. What?
In recent years, critics have complained that LAFD is too white, too male, and has too much nepotism. Now, the nepotism is a fair claim, because if you're choosing people based on who they know, you're not necessarily picking the best people. And the desire to make LAFD's visual representation more representative of the racial and gender distribution in LA is understandable. But when we make diversity even a secondary goal when efficacy is the primary goal, then focusing on the secondary goal at all can get in the way of the primary. Now, this has been going on for a while. When the previous mayor, Eric Garcetti, entered office in 2013, he set a goal of raising the number of women in LAFD from 2.9% to up to 5% by 2020. As of now, the percentage is 3.5%. Now, the current head of the LAFD is Kristen Crowley, and here's what she had to say about her diversity goals.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Now, you might not think this is a big deal. After all, who's going to get upset about wanting more diversity? But in practice, when you have scarce resources and you have a secondary priority, that secondary priority can get in the way of the first, especially in an environment where there's scarce resources and your department has lost $17.6 million in budget and needs to make sure that every dollar is allocated to the most important needs. You might even think that, okay, we can have diversity be first and merit be a tiebreaker, but that's not actually what's happening in practice. 3 of the top women at LAFD are all lesbians, and given the minority percentage of lesbians in the overall population in LA, the chances of that happening by chance and purely on merit are 1 in 64,000. Or near zero. Meanwhile, the head of equity made almost $400,000 in base pay when her job is primarily to focus on diversity when they don't have enough money to even effectively do their job.
I don't understand how your base pay can be so high when the main thing that you focus is diversity.
On top of that, the head of equity, Christine Larson, makes more than the second in command, John O'Brien, despite the fact that he outranks her. Now, it's all well and good to say that efficacy is your top priority and that you're not going to compromise on that, but the money reveals your actual priorities. Moreover, if you hear Christine Larson talk in this clip, you'll see where qualitatively they're actually focused.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Does that sound like the rhetoric of someone who is laser focused on saving lives to you?
I would say maybe the way they're hiring chiefs might be bad. Now imagine now how they have to keep you safe in a grand scale, as if that's not difficult already.
DEI, the rhetoric of someone who is laser focused on saving lives to you? In addition to DEI taking critical resources away from critical functions, it also introduces a double standard. For example, only 27.9% of public school teachers in LA are men. Is anyone pushing for them to have equity? Only about 11% of nurses in the state are men. Is anyone pushing for them to be at 50%? Men and women are equal, but we're not equivalent. We have different things that we're good at. And yes, I'm sure there are roles in LAFD that require more empathy and compassion, which women tend to be better at. But setting top-down goals like 5% of the workforce needs to be women is an inversion of our priorities. And what we need to focus on is safety first.
And I noticed a pattern that many people in powerful positions are kinda there, or they're using the rhetoric to justify why they're there, as if somebody did something very hurtful back in the day. And I'm not saying that's not a good reason to do your job better, but it shouldn't be the standard why you should have the job.
On top of that, DEI infantilizes women and minorities, and it causes people to doubt whether any particular woman or minority actually earned their way and truly is the best of the best for their role. Now, to be absolutely clear, LAFD is not solely or even primarily responsible for this catastrophe. There are various issues with water management, like insufficient capacity to store water that we need in critical scenarios, or fire hydrants going dry and not having enough water in them. Part of this is just gross incompetence because in 2014, Californians passed a bill that allocated billions of dollars for more water storage capacity. And now, over 10 years later, we still don't have an additional capacity built because of over-regulation. This is all happening while the head of LA Water and Power makes $750,000 a year, which is more than the president of the United States. It's also not just a state issue. Only 3% of the land in California is owned by the state. 57% of it is owned by the federal government. However, the state and the federal government do work together to keep it clear and maintained so that wildfires don't get out of control. But as I mentioned before, LAFD is just a microcosm of a macro issue, of our government and our politicians constantly focusing on what sounds good rather than focusing on what is good, like safety. And we can't just point the finger outward because the politicians are responding to the culture set by the people. If we as a people keep allowing ourselves to be confused and keep on thinking that having diversity is more important than efficacy and merit in our critical functions and our government that we're paying our hard-earned tax money for, we will keep on getting the same results. And while we're getting those results, we'll allow ourselves to keep on getting misled by Democratic politicians like Bernie Sanders who exclusively focus on climate change, which is part of the issue. And yes, the climate is changing. We might have reasonable disagreements about how much of climate change is man-made and how fast it's happening, but it is happening and it's something that we need to all adapt to. But in the short term, while we're misallocating our resources because of DEI and inverting our priorities, people are dying.
And what Bernie Sanders need to take in consideration, they have been arresting climate change. Just so you know.
This fire probably wasn't preventable. We had some of the strongest windstorms on record, and in a sense, it was a bit of a perfect storm.
In all honesty, I don't think you can do much about that. But then again, you didn't do much about that since 2014 either.
Could it have been majorly mitigated? Absolutely. And having the best team available and putting our money in the best places available is a necessary condition for that happening. We as a people need to pay attention. We need to use our voice and our vote to incentivize politicians to do the right thing, not the thing that sounds good. Because in critical conditions, when the stakes are this high and we focus on DEI, people die.
And not only that, right now, they're turning on each other.
Period.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
We do. Gigi, if you could please ask her regarding the Times article that came out that the Santa Ynez Reservoir was closed to repairs and it was empty. 117 million gallons of water could have been used in this fight.
Sure. So my stance on this is when a firefighter comes up to a hydrant, we expect there's going to be water. We don't control the water supply. Our firefighters are there to protect lives and property and to make sure that we're properly trained and equipped. That's my position on this. So if there's no water, I don't know how the water gets to the hydrants. Please defer that to DWP or whomever controls that part. But I can tell you the resiliency of our firefighters, if there's no water, they're going to go find water. They're going to figure out a way to do the best they can with what they've got in a very dynamic situation.
Sandra Endo, one of our anchors, wants to know if the department is advised that the Santa Ynez Reservoir was going to be emptied. Were you aware that there was no water there?
No, we weren't aware of that.
They don't have to advise you?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So you had no idea that there wasn't such needed resource?
No, we weren't.
They don't need to inform you that there isn't enough. How?
This misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you because it infects real people that are out there, people I meet every single day, people the mayor's been meeting with. And they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time, and you wonder where this stuff comes from, and it's very damaging as well. But we're here to get the job done.
You know what I find interesting? You have commentators like me called Brian Krasenstein on Twitter saying, Gavin Newsom, stop the lies. But then you find misinformation about the reservoir when the same person is saying, hey man, it's not empty, it's full. Only for a few months later, Gavin Newsom, you're a liar. I can do misinformation fact check too.
You got these news anchors calling for Ron DeSantis and the other Republican governors to go out to California with their resources and go help them out and show them how it's done. Why didn't you do that for North Carolina? Why didn't you do that for Maui? You didn't, right? Because the people in North Carolina are still sleeping in tents in the freezing cold. And the people in Maui got $750. Then you had Oprah and The Rock calling out for us to make donations. They got more money than fucking God knows what. I'm not understanding this logic. Well, it's because it's LA, I forgot. So all the DEI hires, they can't do their job, right? Is that what you're saying? All those DEI hires can't do their job? No kidding. Get the fuck out of here with this fuck. You know, I fucking had enough. I had enough.
And that is enough for the amount of videos that I found when I woke up till the sun started shining in the morning in my face. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation and see you guys in the next one.
Don't get me wrong, ako sa kitabang puta fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo keta verdeta welcome.